to show you, if this is true, what I'm going to share with you, it shows how difficult it is for all humans to relate to any aspect of all of this. The military person was describing his firsthand experience that occurred in 1978 in a small town in northern Arizona. He worked for a unit that would be comparable to what has been in some of the government documents called Moondust or Project Pounce. These are units that were put together at least as far back as right after Roswell. Units that would be trained to go to wherever there was a reported crash or landing, because some of these craft have been clearly left or put down. And that their job would be to extract technology, the craft, and the bodies. And that he was on one of those teams. And he told me that in 1978, in this town in northern Arizona, there was a flood. And that our military unit understood that the flood was not caused by nature, and it was not caused by humans. It was caused by something that was in the category of what they called non-human. And that he was assigned to a group to go there to try to understand why had the water been released from a dam into this town by something non-human. And that his superior officer said, we are going to communicate with and bring in one of the EBEs. And I want you to have the experience of what a telepathic download upload is. And he said they described exactly what would happen, that his superior officers would be nearby. They had done this before. It was a test. And that he was to stand in a particular position, and that this non-human entity would be asked to stay on the ground, because apparently they have the ability to neutralize gravity, even in a focused way as an individual body, that they would prefer not to walk on the ground. And that one of the conditions would be that the entity would approach him with his full knowledge, and that they wanted him to have the experience of the telepathic communication. And I was telling Dr. Mack at Mr. Rockefeller's facility in Wyoming that he told me very honestly, he said, you know, I was so full of myself as a young man that when they were trying to warn me that I would not be prepared for what happened, I thought nonsense. But he said, it's my superior officer, and he said, I want you to know that there will be a point where you are going to want to run or collapse, and I'm ordering you to stand. And he said, I thought it was so silly, and then everything started to unfold, and the being came about 4 feet high. He was 6'4". He remembered how much taller he was. They had told him the being would come up to about 3 to 4 feet from him, but be very low. And they told him, all controlled, that the being would simply raise its head, and when the eyes connected with his eyes, he would no longer be in control of his mind. He thought all of it was nonsense. And then the being's head started to rise, and he said, Linda, imagine having 7 feature films with sound, with touch, with heat, with every sensation that we know and more. And over all of the 7 films running in your mind are gold 3-dimensional symbols. And he said, I remember that my knees began to shake and buckled, and I knew that I was fainting, and men caught him. And he said, they put me on a cot and they left me there for 3 hours. And when I woke up, if God himself had asked me what had been communicated in those 7 films, I would not know. He said, my superior officer told me later, every human thinking about extraterrestrial biological entities and the whole issue of us not being alone in the universe, and the wonder of being able to travel the universe and to communicate with non-humans. We would like to do it over coffee. And he said, it isn't going to happen. Because what happens when their minds telepathically download to our minds, they are uploading every single thing we've ever experienced or thought from our minds. And that the end result often is information is added by the non-humans into the human mind that has had this experience. But then we live on a planet where our fellow humans cannot even hear what uploaded, downloaded information from non-humans might be, because we have taken the position, as odd as it is, that we are alone in the universe and this does not exist. And Dr. Mack, after I told him that story, he looked at me and he said, you know, Linda, I agree, I think we are dealing with extraterrestrial biological entities in some cases. But he said, you know, I think that it's too complex, that it must involve time travelers, other dimensions, and that we are truly like little infants approaching something that is beyond our understanding.